Barbara's endless regeneration is a power unfathomable that should instead be a power impossible. Set her up with enough health and defense boosting artifacts, and she'll give your team heals for days while also making herself appear nigh invincible. And that's exactly what we're doing here, sort of. We're leaving the team on the sidelines as cheerleaders and having Barbara run the gauntlet against the biggest baddies in the game, with one twist. You know how you can move around and, evade things? Yeah, none of that. I mean, I'll have to move around a little bit, but the point is, Barbara is running headfirst into danger as much as possible to see if anything or anyone has the power to outdamage her healing. We'll be spoiling her with a Gourmand's Banquet to power her up further, delicious variant of Golden Crab and Adeptus Temptation, along with an assortment of Resilience Potions. These are the stats, the build, just shy of 38,000 health, and just over 1,000 in both attack and defense. Her health could go a bit higher with some better rolls on the artifacts. Her talents are 9, 12, and 12, no crowns in play. Our cheerleaders are Hydro and Animo types, giving us access to 30% more healing, and 5% faster skill cooldown. So, without further ado, Ice is the enemy of Barbara, so our first battle sounds like it could be a dicey one. Okay, no, Andrius doesn't stand a chance. This first form is a joke for Barbara. It's to the point that, even if I were trying to lose while maintaining her passive heal, it'd be next to impossible. Even without food or potion power-ups, this form just doesn't have enough consistent damage output. Alright, so what about the second form? Icicles, Wind Claws, Ice Bursts. None of them deal enough consistent damage, and it's surprising given Barbara spends a lot of time frozen during this second half of the fight. As the Wolf King's health is whittled away, he starts to get more desperate. Towards the end of it, the wolf shades he summons become so frequent that things actually do get dicey, but an emergency heal via burst shuts down this final desperate attack, and Andrius falls. What the wolf couldn't do, maybe the dragon can. We'll be tackling the Electro-Pyro combo. If you're curious on how the Primogeo Bishop fared, well, he struggled to get Barbara below even half health, even without food and potions in play. But I digress. We're here for the biggest bishop. That's a lot less damage than I was expecting, but it's his first form. Let's fast forward a bit. Alrighty, onto the Pyro phase. After seeing this, pretty sure there's nothing in the Pyro phase that's going to down Barbara. That's, what, 4 of the 5 meteors he summons hitting her? It looks like that 5th could have done the trick, but it's unlikely they will all ever overlap. Adding Electro to the mix, Overload starts firing off and things do get a bit more hectic. There were some close calls, and at times Barbara's health bar looked like it was all over the place. The meteors hit with greater force due to the reactions, but because they didn't overlap like before, Azhdaha just couldn't clutch out the win. He called out his own retreat and fled the scene.
Back to
That's 2 for our deaconess. With how things had been going, I was feeling pretty confident in Barbara's ability to withstand just about anything. Though part of me felt like Childe would be the most troubling of all the bosses from the get-go, I decided to pit Barbara against him without food or potions, and she didn't even make it past the Hydro phase. Childe is, after all, the most aggressive of the bosses, and the majority of his attacks are combos. Electro form went a bit smoother until I didn't dash cancel landing lag and Childe swooped in to extend his combo with 4 quick overload slaps. And during Foul Legacy, Barbara nearly got one-shot by his arrow rain. Of course, once food and potions were brought back into the equation, none of this held any meaning. Those arrow combos during Hydro served nothing more than to push Barbara slightly back. Even gave him a handicap in Electro, spending most of the time against the Pyro barrier, which gave him access to overload reactions. Foul Legacy still hit really hard, but because Childe pauses after using one of his super moves, like the Arrow Rain, there wasn't enough damage output. Though it took an incredibly long 30 minutes, Childe went down, and it really looked like nothing in this game, save for maybe Abyss 12 enemies, would outdamage the Healing Prodigy. But there was one world boss left. Dvalin was an afterthought from the very beginning, the first world boss, who doesn't hit very hard, and who attacks so infrequently that a Hilichurl probably has a higher attack rate. I wasn't going to include him because it just seemed improbable that anything would come of it. But I gave it a go anyways, and that's when something hit me, like a machine gun where every bullet is slightly bigger than the last. We kill these bosses so fast anymore with our maxed out characters and top tier gear that we never see half of what they can do, like what's on screen right now. There's no way to straight up tank Dvalin. His attacks might hit as hard as the gentle breeze during a summer stroll, but oh boy does this erstwhile King of the Skies come with the deadliest terrain in all Teyvat. While this does have a damage cap, it's still way too much for Barbara to tank, the main reason being that we can only attack Dvalin when he attacks us. Who'd have thought that his terrible attack rate would be his greatest weapon against Barbara? Though there are safe spots against this at the edges of the platform, and we could always climb atop his head when he's down, I very much feel like these methods count as evasion. Jumping off or being knocked from the platform resets the damage counter, but again, this feels like evasion. And even if we were to go around the platforms in a circle as one normally would, they eventually all become corrupted. Dvalin will also eventually trigger a never-ending meteor attack, and for the cherry on top, when he does his cinematic cry, we're frozen in place as if he just used Zararudo, and we continuously take damage from both the corrupted platforms and any meteors that land nearby. All of this madness combined is why I'm quite convinced that Dvalin's earned this win. He's anti-Barbara, the only one of his kind currently in the game among the world bosses.
Why has everyone stopped singing?
Anyways, ridiculous testing of game mechanics aside, Barbara is an insane healer who is well worth investing resources in if you've not already done so. Can't say I recommend using her to battle bosses with, although unoffensive Barbara is a pretty fun build. I am definitely at that point in the game where I'm investing into impractical builds, and if you've got any interesting ones of your own to share, would love to hear about them in the comments. This is Musashi, signing off. Till next time.